This is my 23 Marvel movies ranked. This is all my opinion. I just feel strongly about these movies and I'm going to rank them. Alright, let's start. It was boring. Not to say I hated it, it was just very uneventful for me. It lacked a good villain. The Dark Elves were just there. They were just evil cutouts. That's all I thought of them. Main problem that gives it the worst movie is the bad characters. Jane Foster and her science people, whatever. It just didn't. They didn't really feel connected or anything for the movie at all. And the only good character was Thor because it's Thor. He was the only evolved character in the entire movie. And Asgard, and my other problem is Asgard. It was just most of the scenes were Thor in a snuggie going around Asgard feeling meh, and that didn't really do it for me. The best part of the movie was Loki. Loki's always the best part because he's Loki and I love him. So that's it. They're just Loki and the characters are bad. All right, number 22, Thor, the first one. It was the same as Dark World, but had some heart. That's what made it better than Dark World. It was the first movie, so that's what made it better. But it lacked good characters. Same problem with Dark World, just lacked good characters. Jane Foster, I still don't like her. Why is she gonna be Lady Thor? But I did like Coulson, and like he was there. I did like Coulson was there, but really just nothing there. It was Thor's first movie. I did like Thor, so he was the only good character. Number 21, Hulk. They changed Hulk. Like, obviously Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, and the other guy, he's not there anymore, so that's really nothing for it. But what makes it better than Thor and Dark World is some of the characters. I did like General Ross, and I liked how they brought back General Ross for Civil War. But since they changed Hulk, this movie wasn't for me. So that wasn't really it. Next one, Iron Man 2. Yeah, this movie didn't do great. It lacked a good villain. Like most of these movies, at the bottom of the list, they lack a good villain. Whiplash and the AIM guy, no, didn't like it. But some of the things I did like, obviously I liked Tony. Pepper was okay. Happy was great. Obviously he's happy. But my favorite, I did like how they gave out War Machine, but the rest of the movie was just meh for me. I did like the suit up scene in the road thing, yeah. Number 19 is Iron Man 3. It's just right above Iron Man 2 for me because it was I wouldn't say it's the same, but it had more of a Christmas feel like Die Hard, but Die Hard is a completely different movie for me. This movie had good, okay-ish characters. Tony was good. I liked how it came out for Avengers. Like, it gave out some hints for Avengers, but I did like War Machine. Lacks a good villain. I'm kind of mixed with the whole Mandarin was an actor the whole time, but I don't like the blonde guy was the Mandarin. I hope they fix that in the new Shang-Chi movie. Alright, 18, Captain Marvel. It was a bland solo movie. It was just a bland solo movie. I really wanted this movie to be a little bit better, but it really didn't fit that much. It had a whole feminist vibe, and that's not saying it was bad. It's just that it didn't really work in much ways. But I did like the '90s scene a bit, and I love Nick Fury. So that was just okay characters. I love the Skrulls. Skrulls are good, and I like how they're gonna incorporate them in the future of Marvel. Number 17, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Most people don't like this movie, but I thought it was great. It was okay. It was good. I love the characters. Ant-Man and Wasp were great characters. I love Ant-Man. He just in a little bit okay-ish movies. But the thing I hated the most in this movie was Ghost. She was a terrible villain in my eyes. She didn't really do that well, and I hope she doesn't come back or whatever. I mean, she's whatever. She's just a most forgettable villain, and I think that. I did like the jokes. Most of the jokes were great. Number 16, Ant-Man. Ant-Man almost the same as Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it had another forgettable villain. I like the characters. Characters were the best part. So were the jokes. But another forgettable villain. That's what makes this bad. Another not bad movie. Another just makes it go down on the list. Number 15, Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, it was a visually stunning movie. I love the visuals in this movie, and it had some good heart, but it felt like another Iron Man movie. Like it had the same course as Iron Man, but I did like um um I did like Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. He's a good Doctor Strange, and I like how they tied up the whole thing with Dormammu with the time warp, time loop. I like how they ended with Dormammu with the time loop. Number 14 is Black Panther. I don't know why many people like this movie. Maybe it's a cultural appropriation, but it was a okay good movie for me. I didn't hate it. Like most of these movies, I don't hate these movies. It's just that Black Panther shouldn't be as good as it is, cuz in the most of it, it's just an okay good Marvel movie. I loved Killmonger. Killmonger was the best part, but T'Challa wasn't really striking that well in the movie. He was just there, just trying to get some revenge. It was good. It was good, but I didn't. T'Challa's character had a little less motivation than he did in Civil War, but Killmonger was a great character. I like some of the visuals, but some of the CGI towards the end was lazy, and they needed more time with that special effects. They didn't have that much time. Next one, 13, Captain America. I really want to put this movie higher. I really do, because it's the first movie with Captain America, and I feel like I should put it higher, but some things lack in putting it higher, because it was an okay, good movie. It was good. It was a good movie, but it wasn't really anything special besides his first movie. So that's why I put it a little bit lower. I did like Tommy Lee Jones. Obviously, Captain America was a great character. The war scene I felt like was a great scene because he is from the war, so I like how they incorporated the war scene a little bit better. It was a great war scene. It felt like a really good war movie for PG-13 war movie. It was great. Number 12, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. People rank this higher, but I ranked it a little lower. Not that bad. It was a good movie. It had some good okay visuals, but I did like the villain, as I did like Bucky in it. Bucky was a good per se villain, but I like how they brought him back. Bucky is always Bucky, but Captain America was a great person. I kind of like the Falcon. Falcon's okay with me, and Captain America will always be a good character in these movies. I like how they approached his way of a new world a bit. They could have done a little more, but it was okay. And Nick Fury becoming alive was a surprise. It wasn't a whole predictable thing. It was a surprise for me. Number 11, Age of Ultron. Now, Age of Ultron was a good movie in my opinion. It was a really great movie. I did like Ultron. Ultron, as some people don't like Ultron, I really liked Ultron. His character was really fleshed out in the one movie because I felt like his goals were kind of okay. He had a great goal. His motives were good, and he felt really menacing to me because he was Robert California, so he felt really menacing to me. But the only problem was the Avengers didn't really feel fleshed out in this way. They were like in a puberty stage with their characters because they haven't fully fleshed out, but they just technically started, but they still feel genuinely good. That's why I ranked this as a good movie. I did like the ending, and Vision was okay. Vision's okay for me. Next movie, Iron Man. This was the first Marvel movie, so I really wanted to rank it higher, but again, this is their first movie, so they're not going to do great the first movie. Tony Stark will always be amazing. He had very good motives and goals in hand. I like his transition from being a billionaire philanthropist to trying to be a hero. He had very good motives. He just did it for fun at first, but now he wants to be the hero. And the ending scene is one of the best ending scenes in Marvel. But the thing that lacks is a good villain because the bald dude, I don't know his name, not very great villain. I like how he foreshadowed Thanos, but not very great villain in my opinion. That's what just makes it lower in my. Everything else is a great movie. Next, 9, Captain America Civil War. I wanted to rank it higher, but there was no room because I had a bunch of other movies I loved. This movie really went well with the whole Avengers vibe and how they were torn apart. It really went well because there's a bunch of conflicting characters, like Black Widow was conflicting, and I liked how they introduced Spider-Man. Spider-Man was a good introduction. Introduce him here, then give him his own solo movie. I thought that was a good way. I love the fight scenes, but what lacks is another good villain because Zemo was okay-ish, but that was about it. It was just Zemo, and it was just Zemo. And I did like Black Panther better in Civil War than I did like him in his own movie. That's the problem. Because he felt motivated and he felt like he should do this for his father and his country. That's what I felt. Next one, number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. I love James Gunn. James Gunn really cares for these characters. He really does. But this movie was amazing. All right, it had one of the best soundtracks of all time, one of the better scores, and these characters really felt fleshed out, like even before we met them. And Quill was out of place, out of time, space thief. He was just a common thief, and he was out of space, out of time. Rocket was really great. He had more of a conflicting self because he was a science experiment that his creators didn't care for him. Groot was always great. He didn't really need a story arc. He was just cute in there. He was just there. Drax had a very compelling story arc because he wanted revenge for his wife and kid against Ronan. And Gamora was okay. She's a daughter of Thanos, and she feels like she's the one who stops Thanos. I love these characters. Ronan was okay-ish villain, and these characters make a great team together. Next movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming. This movie I really like. It was a really good Spider-Man movie. It felt really grounded for Spider-Man because Spider-Man really is just a teenager trying to be a hero. In this movie, Spider-Man feels like an Avenger, and he feels like he has obligations toward being a hero, but in reality he's just a teenager, and he doesn't really feel that way. He feels like he should be a hero, and that's what conflicts him against his goals. His goals weren't really achieved there, but at the end he realizes that he's just being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He did realize that the biggest heroes save the smallest people. That's what I think. Ned will always be the best, and he's the best sidekick character of all time. Ned always will be the best. I did feel like I love Flash Thompson as a bully because Flash Thompson in this movie wasn't the typical stuff you in the locker, kick you, or punch you, or beat you up kind of bully, because he felt like a genuine high school bully, just making fun of Peter and cracking some side jokes, but really just not the worst kind of guy. Not the guy you'll be like, oh, this is such a cliche. No, that's a genuine bully for me. The high school setting really felt real for me. That's what I felt. Number 6, Thor Ragnarok. This was a great change in the Thor series because the Thor series so far was not that great. But this change, Taika Waititi really made this movie better. It really had an 80s vibe, which I liked, like an 80s synth vibe that I liked. The set pieces were great, and I love how Hulk was a side character because Hulk didn't really have much to do for like 12 movies, and I really felt bad for him. But now he had his old fleshed out character arc. He really feels controlled with Hulk, but I like it. Thor was a great character. Loki was also great in this movie, and Valkyrie had very conflicting goals that I felt like were not that met, but still open up in the future. And The best part was Thor's journey on being who he is, because of course he's not the god of hammers, he's the god of thunder. So he had a really great goal in chief, and that's what made it great. But what made this movie go down again was the okay-ish villain. I thought that Hela was okay. She was okay. She wasn't the greatest villain in my opinion, but she did have some goals that made sense. Next, number 5, top 5, Avengers. Avengers was the first one. It was the first team up movie that really went good. I love these characters. These characters weren't fleshed out because they didn't have all these movies to go to. They only had a couple solo movies each that weren't really great, except for Iron Man and Captain America. But still, this movie felt really great as a team up movie because these characters didn't really have each other in mind, and they all have different values. But because that's it, they make a great team together, and it had some of the best visuals in my opinion, and it really felt a good team up movie. Loki was a great villain, and that's not much, but Loki was a great villain. He had other goals, and I like how the mid-credit scene will always be the best mid-credit scene ever. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Some people rank this lower. I would rank this very high, because if you get it, James Gunn really cares about these characters. These characters were really fleshed out and were really set in mind for this movie. I loved it. I love these characters now. Whole Rocket story arc, it was one of the best I feel in this entire MCU, because he was sort of the mean guy in the whole group, and it's because he was always tossed aside and his creators didn't care about him. That feels really compelling, and I loved him going with Yondu and trying to find himself and realized he does care. He's just under a bunch of layers of skin that he just doesn't. He just feels like he doesn't, but he does care. Chris' journey with his fathers is very great. Ego as his pretend father is like Peter's trying to get Ego to fill the void, but Ego turns out not just to care about Peter. But then he finds out that Yondu was there all the time. He find that out at the end, and that was a very compelling story arc. I love the story arc with Gamora and Nebula, how they become sisters in the end, because this whole team really feels like a family now, because James Gunn really made them together, and now they're great. My other favorite was Drax and his story arc with his daughter. My favorite scene will always be when Drax and Mantis are sitting on those stairs, and Drax is thinking about his wife and daughter, and then Mantis feels his emotion, and she starts crying, and you get to feel what Drax is feeling without anyone talking, because Mantis is crying and Drax is just looking out, and you feel Drax's emotions in a very clever way with Mantis. I like Mantis' character. I always will like Mantis. She was a great character, and this movie has the best soundtrack of any of these movies, any MCU movie. This has the best soundtrack. I always listen to it. Wham Bam Shang-a-Lang is like my 3rd favorite song, and Forest Drive is also another great song. Number 3, Spider-Man Far From Home. This, in my opinion, is the best Spider-Man movie besides Spider-Verse, but Spider-Verse is good in different reasons, but this still, Peter really feels great. I mean, him going as a teenager to a hero is just compelling, and he lost Tony Stark, which was his only mentor, and he lost another father figure besides his own father, his Uncle Ben, and Tony, because Tony's now dead, and he feels like he should fill the void of being Iron Man. But he doesn't know, because he makes all these mistakes, and that's very subtle and very great. Not that subtle, but still very great in this movie. And Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, in my opinion, he rocked Mysterio. They couldn't have cast anyone better for Mysterio than Jake Gyllenhaal. He really made this villain very compelling, and he made it like a great villain, because Master of Illusions, I didn't I loved how they didn't do the whole elementals thing. How it just if they just made the movie about the elementals, then it would have been bad. But since they made him about Mysterio, I did love it. And it has the second best mid-credit scene of all time with J. Jonah Jameson. Oh my god, that's the second best of all time. Really compelling stories. Especially how Peter wants to go back on his trip to be with MJ, and that's how normal teenagers are, but he still has to be the hero. It's like almost the opposite of Homecoming. That's how it feels, because he has to be the hero. And the great scene, in my opinion, is with Happy and Peter talking about Tony, and that made me cry because it felt real to me. I'm not going to tell you my top 2, but I'm going to tell you in a different video because they're going to be too long for me to review. And so far, the rankings are very good for me. I feel like that's where the rankings should be. But the next 2 movies I will talk about in a different video, because right now it's already too long for this video. And the other 2 will make it like another hour long, so if you feel like your opinions has changed, just tell me in the comments. Just tell me if you have a different opinion in mind about any of the movies I talked about. But so far, these are my Marvel movies ranked. I'll tell you the number 2 later.